it says preparing, but over here it says meeting is now
Yeah.
streaming live on YouTube. So I think we are live. Then if we're not, yeah, we're live. All right. So tell me, we were just chatting about like your workouts and the progress that you're making there. Like what have you been doing different?
You know, I don't think I've been doing things like a lot differently than I used to, because I'm fair at, well, different in what regard? Like pre or post COVID? Is that you want to get into that?
Yeah, like, well, you said that you're noticing that you're getting stronger. Like, is it just a matter of you've just been consistent for so long that
it's a consistency portion. I'm just staying super consistent. You know, especially with my like training, I feel like getting back into like a routine for me is the key. And so like I book my classes for the gym kind of every day. The day before. Every gym's doing things a bit differently, but like for us, it was like classes were filling up, so like you had to kind of get in to like book it,
right?
And then you can't. There's a small cancellation window, but I don't know. I've been staying super like consistent with my training.
Yeah.
But not only that, like I think the bigger portion, to be honest, is my diet has been super like on point. Like
nice.
I'm very much like a believer in like the 80-20 rule for diet, especially when you're like so like active like physically.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're burning energy and burning carbs and kind of like earning those carbs type of mentality,
yeah,
you can have a little bit more like flexibility, I think, in your diet in general.
yeah,
But like for me, it's just like if I'm gonna be training so hard, like I want my body to feel good while I'm doing it.
yeah,
And
of
the
course.
only way it's gonna feel good while doing it is if I'm eating good food.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
what does
so
that mean to you? Like what, like, so because I think everybody's idea of balance is different, right? Like, um, I mean, one of my good friends loves gummies, like gummy bears, and he will just like sit and snack on gummy bears, and for years that is his thing, right?
mhm,
Uh, that like for me, the idea of balance is a little bit different than that. It's not better. I just I'm into eating a lot of food that is like really tasty and like spicy and with sauces and things like that.
yeah.
Rather than like a lot of chips or things like that. But so for you, what does that like? What's the balance when you're doing well? When because for the balance, some days you need to be like, oh my god, I ate so good, and then some days you
Yeah.
need to be like, well, that was fun, right? So when
Yeah.
you're eating really well, what does that look like for you?
So like my I would say my balance, you know, I'm very much like I can eat the same thing every day, and I pretty much do.
Mhm.
Uh, so
What's your go-to breakfast?
so my go-to breakfast, I always have a shake, like a green shake, and it's very simple ingredients. Like I use half a banana, some frozen kale because I like it cold, some fresh spinach, um, a little bit of Greek yogurt, some frozen strawberries because I like it cold, and water.
Mm.
And so I really have that every single day, and I know if I'm going to start off my day with that, like as my because there's also like what really matters, and I think is a big key that I've learned with like nutrition, is like the first thing that goes into your mouth is going to set up the rest of your day.
Hmm.
So I always try and make the first thing in my health or in my mouth for the day like very like nutrient dense, and so
Mm.
like that shake, I'm getting a lot
Right.
of like good food
Yeah.
in one kind of container,
Yeah.
and then I'll always have two whole eggs with it,
Oh,
and
nice.
so that's consistently my breakfast.
Hmm.
Um, every single day, like even
So,
on
but wait,
weekends. Like,
by the time you do that,
yeah.
uh, do you have any idea what like? do you track the calories of that? Do you have any idea how many calories that is, or not? And you just go by like, it feels
Yeah,
good, I just eat it.
I don't. Yeah, I don't track it because um
It's been the
I
same for
have,
so long, kind of.
and like I have like, you know, like the NutriBullet thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like the same size container.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so only certain amount fits. And so I just
Yeah.
like, you know, I
Right.
know how to like eyeball it now.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't like I because that's where one thing I'm really bad at is like tracking and and staying like um you know, staying within like rules and guidelines.
Yeah.
I'm like a
I think that the only reason why it makes sense to track is if you really appreciate variety in your food, right? So, like for me, man, I cannot go 3 days without eating ethnic food. Like I can't. And Katie's not going to cook, you know, like chicken or
yeah.
something like that. Like, so we basically make our own, like we figure out our own dinner separately every day. So,
Mhm.
or at least 90% of the time. And so I'll be like, tonight I want Indian food, and tomorrow I want some tacos. And then the next day, maybe I want Indian again. Like I don't care. I'll do things like that. And so for
Yeah.
that flexibility, it makes a world of difference for me to, because it's so different
Yeah.
from one day to another.
You know what? I honestly like I completely agree with you. Like I understand tracking and
Yeah.
I like fully support it, especially
Yeah.
like when you don't have like a good nutrition background or you've just been eating whatever you want for so long. Cause like, yeah, you'd be surprised like how much um you know how much you're really eating in terms of like calories and even the macronutrients and stuff. Like I remember and like for me, like maybe I didn't do it the best way, but like I did it with just a lot of trial and error on my own body.
Mm,
You
yeah.
know, so like I used to eat like a whole avocado, like, you know, every day kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then like when you start to realize like how much like fat is actually in there, I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need like a whole
Yeah.
avocado. Like I can
Yeah.
cut that. And so like, you know, if you're looking, I think to get you know to get started with things, I would say like do as I say, not as I do, because like for
Yeah.
me it's been like years of trial and error where I just kind
Right.
of have my groove.
Yeah.
And I'm very like routine and regimented, so like once I have my routine, it's like boom, I can follow it and I don't get bored of food very often.
So I think there's some key factors in there. Because a lot of people are like, well, I've tried to do my own thing. You know, I've tried to just listen to my body. I've tried to track and nothing works. Or they're
Hmm.
like, I tried tracking, it didn't produce the result that I wanted. So now I'm listening to my body. Great. Are you doing or feeling better than you were back then? No, it's still not working because a lot of the times people won't people will want the best of both worlds without putting in any effort, right? So
Right.
the way I equate it to is to financial well-being. Like if you have no clue where you're at with your finances, then and you're happy with the way things are, awesome. But if
Yeah.
you're like, oh shit, okay, I need to buy a house, I better start following a budget because I need to save whatever $50,000 in the next 2 years, a year. Um, you can trial and error a lot of it, or you can just create a budget, follow it. Can you get there both ways? Yeah, of course. It's just that if you're going to do the trial and error version of it, you got to be okay with spending a whole month analyzing what you did and how it worked,
Hmm.
and without feeling discouraged, make the tweaks necessary to improve next month, right? So
Yeah, it
a lot of
becomes like
time,
a very like yeah, you're right, and like it becomes a very like emotional game too, because like our brain plays like a bigger role in our self sabotage and in like our results than we kind of attribute it to. So it's like it's very easy to go down like a negative spiral and then
yeah,
wake up, you know, 6 months later and be like, you know, how the heck did I like what the heck happened to me?
yeah,
Uh,
it,
and I'm not immune to that. Like I probably put on like 10 or 15 pounds during that COVID stint.
Yeah.
Um and like I get it. Like I didn't care. Like I got to the point where it's like, I mean, I shouldn't say I didn't care because it's not like I don't ever care about my health and well-being, but I was a lot easier like eating shitty foods.
Yeah.
And I quickly learned like, no, I don't like that about myself. And so like, I can switch it back quite easily, but
Mm.
like it, I mean, easily in retrospect, I think, or in perspective, but sometimes like if you've been in that slump for years,
Oh yeah.
it's a lot harder. Like I mean, I did it after only like a couple months, and like it was still really hard. Um, but it's we have to give our mind like you know we have to fight it because it's lazy and it always will choose the path of least resistance because that's
Yes.
survival, right?
You know,
Uh,
so what I like about what you just said is that it implies it requires effort. There's such a big push right now to just go with the flow and not like, oh, it's all right, don't worry about it. If it's hard, then like mm, like
yeah,
I think that if you're just pursuing if you want your life to be easy, and that's how you're trying to live your life, it's going to actually get you in trouble, because like you say, the path of least resistance does not lead anywhere great.
no,
you know,
no,
like if you look back at the things in your life that you've accomplished that you're proud of, none of them happened by accident. None of them came off easily to you. The things that took you the most effort are the ones that you're the most proud of. So,
yeah.
it's like, I think it's important that we map our expectations. If we want to achieve something that in our own perspective feels like greatness, then you better be prepared to put some effort, right? Now,
Yeah.
here's a question for you. You said that you gained about 10-15 pounds. I also gained about 10-15 pounds during COVID. But to you, tell me about like the week or two before you decided, okay, that's it, I'm getting my shit together. Like, what did you notice, and what brought you to make that decision?
Well, um, if I'm being completely honest with you, like I don't know like where that mental shift actually happened or when it actually happened. Because what the biggest barrier for me was not having like access to a gym.
Mm,
And so once I kind of had access again, um, and the other truthful thing is like there's so much like change and things that have been going on in my life the past like couple months where like I think that I can't like pin down a specific point of change, but like I've gone through this very big like shift in just how like short and how precious life is.
mm,
Um, and that I don't want to spend my life feeling like what I felt like when I was even like 10 or 15 pounds heavier. Um, and so I think it wasn't necessary. And I think as I'm talking myself through this, I think it is actually a very like valuable lesson is that like we don't necessarily have to have this like aha like one single defined moment to start making
mhm,
changes because
mhm.
like I think for me that is just not how it happened. Like it kind of like progressively um you know progressively just started because I just and like maybe it's with my experience and I just kind of got into that mindset of go go go. But like it kind of progressively just started and it was like it wasn't until like I was into the thick of it where I was like, oh yeah, like I need to make this more of like a mental priority to like get everything back on track. But like
Mm,
I had just kind of started doing it, so it's kind of hard for me to like answer like how I was a couple weeks before because
yeah.
I don't really know, to be honest. Like I kind of just like and this is where I think it becomes the difference between motivation and discipline. Like I feel like we were supposed to talk about motivation and we've kind of sidetracked that. But
Yeah.
the difference between motivation and discipline is like, maybe I wasn't really looking for the emotional motivation side, and I just kind of stuck my nose to the ground and did the discipline side like
Mhm.
first.
Right.
And then like as I started to see the result, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I'm gunning for.
Right. So you took
And then
action before the
yeah,
motivation came.
yeah. Which again, like I don't know if it's the right way.
It
Because
doesn't,
like
I
I
don't think
feel
it
like we
really matters.
because I feel like we like, my advice would not be to do what I again like what I did, because I think now that I have more goals about my like my lifting and my training, for example, I mean, I don't really have weight goals per
Mhm.
se. I just go by more how my body looks and feels. But like those are a little bit more clear in my mind, and now I feel even more motivated to like start hitting
Right.
those. But it wasn't really like the catalyst to get me started, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Well, see, for me, like I I'm used to paying a lot of attention to that, and the it was a conscious decision to not focus on like to completely let go of my fitness and my nutrition during the first 2 months of COVID, right? And it was a lot of fun. Like I was as soon as we were allowed to order food, I was ordering food. I It would be like one night it was pizza, the next night it was Indian, the next day it was Mexican, and it just
Right.
rotated, right? Um,
Italian
Man,
in there.
it got to a point where we were ordering food. I was ordering not food, treats from 7-Eleven. And like I'd be like, yes, sir, let's eat this. So at first it felt like a lot of fun, but I do remember getting to the end of the day and like after the food was done, it didn't feel great. Like I was
No.
like, ugh. And then the next morning I'd wake up and this is where I started noticing. I started noticing waking up not feeling great and being like, why did I eat that much? Like I started regretting having eaten so much because of how I felt, not because of my weight or because of anything. I actually didn't even weigh myself until the very end, but it didn't feel great. Then came the side of, oh, right, um, my clothes are getting a little bit tighter, and that's when I finally was like, okay, it's time. But
Yeah.
it took me from the first day that I identified that I woke up feeling like shit to when I actually started, it took me a good 2 weeks of
Yeah.
waking up consistently being like, oh man, I did it again. Like, why? But I feel that I did the same thing as you, where I started without necessarily being punched in the face by motivation. It was
Right.
just identifying, this is not awesome. I don't feel great. I'm going to take some action, even though I don't really feel like taking action.
Yeah.
Um, and then once it starts happening, it gets easier and easier because, like you say, now you've built momentum and feels good, right?
Yeah. And you know what? Like as you were talking, like I was kind of thinking about like what you were saying, and also like kind of what I went through. And you know, I honestly think like you go through like this like bit of denial that
Mm.
that you're like, oh, I don't need, I'm not gaining weight. Like, I don't need it. I don't, and it's like the stages of grief, where you kind of go
Right.
into this like denial, like you might get angry or upset at yourself. And I think we go like, do you know the 5 stages of grief? Like you've
I
heard
don't know
that
them
before?
by heart, but it's like denial, and then uh, accept. Well,
Sadness,
it's like
anger.
sadness, anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like acceptance, like yeah. So it's honestly like I feel like you kind of go up and down like through those emotions with a lot of things in life. But like with this too, like I think the reason like I didn't like come to terms with like setting like goals before I got started, and like kind of finding that motivation was because I was in denial that I ever even needed it. I'm like,
Mm,
I'm a healthy person, like, I you got it, like,
yeah.
I don't need to be
Right.
I'm
Right. Right.
perfect. No, I never think
Yeah.
I'm perfect.
I am
But it's
perfect.
like but like you yeah, I think that that I'm like now in retrospect thinking is probably why, I didn't step on a scale like after COVID because I knew I had gained weight, and I didn't step on a scale because I was like, I don't really want to see. Um, and I actually
Not even when you started.
no.
Okay, so you don't know like where
'Cause
you got
so I
to.
don't know how much I actually put on because like I don't have a scale, so
Yeah,
I usually use it at my gym, but they weren't letting us use it at the beginning because of like
right.
COVID, which I don't know why, like shoes. Anyways,
Yeah,
but yeah,
just in
so
case your feet were coughing
yeah,
or sneezing.
we're yeah. So I didn't use it for the longest time, but I just had known I gained weight because of my clothes, mostly like not fitting as nice. Um, but yeah, but I think I was like scared too, anyways. Like I was not like wanting to do that. Where like usually I'll check in to just see like,
Hmm.
where am I sitting at around
Yeah,
today? But yeah, I think like denial definitely plays like a role into like
well,
why we like,
see,
yeah,
you mentioned something. You said I didn't really like who I was. So you got to a point where you were like, is this who I want to be? Like,
yeah,
and that can be that means that you have an expectation of yourself. That means you have a bar set for yourself, and when you're not living in accordance to that bar, to that identity that you've decided that you've created for yourself, that disconnection is what reminds you, oh right, I am not behaving like the kind of person that I want to be, right? And I think that's important. Like, we can't go through life expecting to have a great life if we are not constantly measuring ourselves against something else.
right,
So that's why I beat down so hard on like snowflakes, because I'm like, that's not going to lead you anywhere. Like, you're going to try to bubble wrap yourself and your ego so that you don't
mhm,
feel like something can be improved, because that hurts the ego. But
yeah,
then you're condemned to stay down there, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it's a I am getting more and more comfortable with just yeah, just giving it to them the way that I'm like, if I was stuck feeling like that, I'd probably want someone that is not afraid to come across a little bit rougher, maybe, but like give me the truth that is hopefully going to shake me off of that mindset and actually do something that I feel proud of, right? Versus like, today has been hard, and it's been hard every single day of every single year,
yeah,
and you're not doing anything to improve it. Like,
yeah, yeah,
what are we looking for, right? I think I can't remember where I read that the lowest form of attention that we can get is pity.
right,
And so many people love getting the, oh, I'm so sorry for you.
hmm, yeah,
Why? Right?
why,
Like,
yeah,
so
yeah,
when someone is like, oh, Miguel, thank you for that message, that it is so motivating, I'm like, well, not to everybody. Like, I guarantee there's a lot of people that are like, I don't like him telling me I could be doing better.
right,
Nah,
yeah, yeah.
jit.
Yeah, it's true. Honestly, like one of the biggest reasons I got into like exercising the way I do now
Mhm.
is because my grandma told me that I looked fat.
Oh, grandma shooting some
Yeah,
harsh.
some shade. Yeah, she like she's an old Italian woman, so they don't have like they never have filters.
I
Italian
love
women
it.
will never
Yeah.
have filters. And so, yeah, she's like, "Why are you looking so fat?" And like that was literally the like catalyst to like my you know
That was the beginning.
um,
Like, that was the very beginning of
yeah.
your.
It was like right before I started CrossFit,
Yeah.
uh
All right.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, the I think it was one of the big catalysts. Like, I don't want to look fat. That's not who I think I am in my body.
Yeah.
You know what, Miguel, you said also something too that was really like key about the like I was trying to remember exactly how you said it, and now I'm not gonna remember. But you said something about like you're like designing the person that you like see yourself as,
Yeah.
which I think is such a key thing like to know is that like you are in control of how you want to see yourself, and
Yeah.
like getting that distinction away from how you think other people want to see you.
Yeah.
Because I think that we, and myself included, right, like I've gone through a lot of this where it's like I am very happy at like all stages of how my body looks and performs. Like that's
Hmm.
just something I've come to terms with. It's like whatever I'm going through, you know, if I've gained a little bit of weight and if I'm not as strong in the gym, I'm still happy that my body is what it is and is
Right.
performing the way that that it is at that time.
Hmm.
Uh, and I use that as kind of like if I'm underperforming, you know, maybe that's a sign that I need to like work on something else. There's a missing link somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I think it's important that we like almost like define and really think of like how we want to see ourselves,
Hmm.
and not like just what we think other people want us to see us, how other
Yeah.
people want us to see, or how
Yeah.
other people want us to look.
Yeah.
It's all about like you know, you should constantly just be in competition with yourself. Are you a little bit better than you were yesterday? Are you doing a little bit more than you did a month ago? You know, are you on that right trajectory?
Yeah.
Um, and is it going to be a straight trajectory? 100% no. I've never experienced anyone that's had like an easy go at like I'm going to
Right.
start fitness today and like
Yeah.
you know
Every day is a win. Yeah.
yeah like every day and I think we're so conditioned um to not realize the small wins. um and it wasn't until you know I had some really like good supportive friends that have you know helped with that too, and good coaches and stuff along the way too that have helped with that, where it's like a little bit of a reality check, like you know, if I didn't perform as well in a workout as I wanted to, and you know, I get really hard and down on myself, and it's so stupid because it's like, did you do the workout and did you feel good and did you like sweat and you know, I'm like yeah, then like perfect, good, like
Yeah.
you know, what else were you trying to achieve, like
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
other than like getting a workout and sweating,
It's hard because you can't, the only thing you can control is your effort. You can't control the outcome, right?
right?
So why put so much stock into the result when that's not in your hands? Like, measure yourself against your effort. That's what matters ultimately, right? And that is something that is completely in your hands. I like, this is the other part, man, where uh, a lot of people just like, the message is not great for everybody. It's great if you're in that mindset, but I think that sometimes we set the bar too low for ourselves. But again,
Mhm.
this is something that each one of us gets to do, right? So if anybody listening, if you're happy where you're at, if you're like, man, this is the best my life has ever been, then this is not for you, because obviously you're there. Awesome. Keep on rocking. But if you feel that there's something lacking, that there's something missing, that you're not performing at your potential, that you're not bringing the best of yourself to every relationship in your life or to the people around you, then there's the room for improvement. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes we make is we set the bar too low for ourselves. So we will say, well, I'm trying. And I hate that shit, man, because everybody is trying. Every single human in the world could say that. So,
Yeah.
so how low of a bar is that? When one of our clients, messages me sometimes to share like a win or something like that, right? Like, hey, whatever it is, my jeans fit for the first time in a decade, or like I'm the fittest I've been in since I was 25 and I'm 55 right now, right? I'm like, you're doing awesome, great, keep it up. And if they reply with something like, thanks, I'm trying, I can't let that go. I don't just let it roll. I'm like, no, you're not just trying. Everybody out there is trying. You are doing, and that's all the difference, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it feels like if you're, oh man, this is going to sound horrible. So here you go, guys. I think that, we fall back into like, ooh, I am not really putting in the effort. But you know what? At least I'm a nice person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? 99.99% of people are good people. So that's a, like, to me, I feel that if we set the bar higher for ourselves and we stop allowing ourselves to use the same excuses over and over and over, then life gets better, right? It's okay to struggle. It's okay to fall flat on your face, but that should teach you a lesson. If it happens once, great, you're human. If you keep on struggling with the same thing, now you are choosing to not learn the lesson that that's trying to teach you, right?
Right.
So now, what the best improvement in my own personal and emotional life and fitness has been when I can pair that kind of expectation of myself with the kindness to myself, so that if one day I went off the deep end and I crushed an entire pizza or like 17 tacos, I don't tell myself a story of how messed up I am or how,
Yeah.
useless I am. Not, I don't turn it into a story. It was what it was. I enjoyed it. Awesome. Tomorrow's a new day, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I agree. Like we need to get off the pity party train. Where I don't know like where it comes from, but we love to take control of our narratives versus just letting the story tell itself, you know?
mm, mm,
And so like I think that's where it comes from. Like, yeah, like enjoy, I will often enjoy a pizza to myself.
yeah,
If not like once a week or once every couple of weeks.
yeah,
It is what it is. I'm not ashamed or sad about it. It's
right,
I earned it or I want it and I'm
yeah,
gonna have it.
yeah.
Same thing with like cookies. I'm a big cookie
Oh yeah,
guy. Yeah,
that's great.
I have a cookie probably like 4 or 5 times a week.
What?
Yeah.
But wait, are these cookies, like, they're not like Tim Hortons cookies?
No. But they're usually from like bakeries. Like I have a couple of my favorite bakeries in town.
That makes sense.
And so like that's always my thing too, is like if I'm gonna have like a shitty food, it's gonna be like good.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Come on.
this is like a stupid like $3 cookie that's like this big, and I'm like, it's way overpriced, but whatever. I work hard and I
Yeah,
want my damn cookie.
yeah. Well, and it's okay, and it's just like everything. It again, if we go back to the example of the budget, right? If you make, if you're on disability, does it make sense for you to go and buy yourself a $100 pair of shoes? Maybe not,
Yeah.
right? But if you are freaking crushing it, and and you're doing better than ever, and you're like saving money every single month, and you've been disciplined that way, is it a big deal to go and spend $100 in shoes? Maybe not, right? But that's the problem is when we expect to put in a mediocre effort, and we expect to attain the same results or live the same way
Mm.
as someone that puts in an extraordinary effort, right? Like,
Right.
no,
Right.
no, there's a reason why this shit is hard. There's a reason why it takes patience and dedication and discipline and blah blah. It's because, like, at the end you get to reap the, not at the end, you get to reap the rewards as you go, but it does take effort. So
100%. Yeah, like it's part of like it's part of the reason I work so hard at what I do. And it's not easy. It's not like I'm always pumped to go to the gym. Like I drag my butt there it probably even like half the time.
yeah, yeah,
'Cause it's sometimes I don't like the workout or I don't want to do that, or I can make a million excuses in my head. My
yeah,
shoulder hurts, my back is a little bit sore, and I don't want to do
yeah,
that, whatever. But like no, like when you put the effort in, like that's where you reap, like you said, the rewards of like living the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah.
Um, and like for me, like I've gotten away from like using like any kind of food as like a reward for myself. Like it's
Mm.
not a reward, it's just something that I want. My
Yeah.
reward is like, you know, not the food itself, but the ability that I have like enough control in all
Right.
aspects of my life that I'm
Mm.
able to do that, right? Because then it becomes a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Um, of like depending on like, you know, or rewarding yourself with food, and then it's like,
Yeah.
well, if I don't feel good enough about myself, or if I'm emotionally stressed or financially stressed or stressed at work, or
Just
if
get
my
that
partner,
dopamine hit. Yeah.
yeah, just give me a cookie. Like no, that
Yeah.
is not why I do it.
Yeah.
um and you know what, the other kind of slippery slope thing is I, you know, I don't mean to draw offense to this, but it's alcohol. We use
Mm.
alcohol like as such a coping mechanism,
Yeah.
um for you know, I remember my mom growing up, she always had a saying where it was like, you're driving me to drink. It was it was her saying. And so like, but like that mentality is so like prominent in the
Right.
world. Like I find it's like, you know, I've had a rough day, so like I've earned my glass of wine at night,
Right.
or my beer. And like, you know, it could be fine in
Yeah.
balance and stuff, but for me it's just like it doesn't work. Like my body does not like alcohol for whatever reason,
Mm.
and so,
Yeah.
you know, I try and avoid it, you know, as much as I can. But when I do have it, which I mean, it's not on, you know, I had beers on Sunday night. We went for beers and burgers, which was
Yeah.
a fun
Yeah.
thing. You know, uh, it's fine. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like be mad at myself or like, you know, draw a pity party or like even draw
Right. Right.
attention to it. I'm just gonna do it and have fun,
Yeah.
and enjoy it. So I think, but the key that I'm trying to say is just what I've already said. It's not about the actual reward, or like what's the opposite of like a reward when you're like, you know, if you're stressed and you go to alcohol, whatever that is.
Yeah. It's a
Anyways,
clutch. It's a.
a
Yeah.
clutch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You shouldn't rely on those things. Those should just be like a part of like um the ability that you have because everything else is so
Yeah.
far in line.
Well,
Find
here's.
something else, your outlet, find
Yeah.
other ways to mentally like reward yourself.
Well, you know, man, last year I went on a crazy mind trip because I was able to meet in person uh, one of my mentors and business coaches down from the States, and to see how he lived his life. So the guy, I think he just turned 30. Like it is insane. It makes me feel so old, but um, he's built a huge business. He's changed the industry, and by default, helped a lot of people like me help a lot of other people, right? So the ripple effect is huge. But so yeah, he is 30, but he did not drink. He went to bed at 8:30, 9 p.m. He always wakes up like, if he wakes up at 4 a.m., it's like he slept in. And
Okay.
and when you look at how, you know what, so I went to his house, and the guy had every cabinet in his kitchen, every light switch in the house labeled, like every single thing. And it was just like, this allows me to not spend any brain power on tiny little decisions. So
Yeah.
he had created an environment that was conducive to him staying focused on his priorities. And that was crazy. It kind of taught me, like, I mean, not long ago, man, like if I had a day that was crazy long, I'd be like, ooh, I can't wait to go upstairs and have two beer, because
Yeah.
I'm a lightweight. So a beer and a half, and I'm like, life is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then my coach was like, that's a pattern. What's happening? Like, what are you trying to numb your mind about? Like, why not just deal with whatever is happening? Like, go to the cause, deal with it so that it doesn't keep coming back up. And now we're talking about procrastination, right?
Right.
If you have a shit ton of things to do and you keep putting them off and you feel overwhelmed, but you keep putting it off and you're, whatever, you're watching Netflix or, staying in bed all day, nothing is going to get done. So it's just going to keep on piling. That's one of the reasons why I am often working so much, because I don't like to just feel, oh man, there's so much that I could be doing, and just like, let's wait until it gets much worse.
Yeah, yeah.
But so action is the best remedy for overwhelm, right? And we go back to the same thing. If you want a life with less anxiety and less overwhelm, take more action. It's what is something that I struggle, man, with, like, hardcore, is like when I don't know if this is a man thing or what, but like if somebody comes to me and says, hey Miguel, okay, I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let me understand more, ask you questions. Okay, got it. So I think either this or this could help you. Like, what do you think? Oh yeah, I think that could help. Awesome. But then there's no action. Or when, like, I basically am a shitty listener. Like when people just want to tell me about their problems or how difficult their life is being, I have a hard time with it.
Yeah. You know why? It's because here's the problem is, in general, I'm obviously very generalizing here. Men are we're more attuned to like logic and understanding.
Right.
And women and females are more attuned to emotional and supportive things. Which makes it harder for, that makes
both
it
of us.
hard on both of us, right? Because like we're trying to meet in the middle somewhere, but like it's like even just the phrases and the terms that you just use, it's like you use like understand, like I want to understand. That's a logical thing, right?
Right.
Whereas like an emotional thing would be like, I want to support and I want to help. Like neither one is right or wrong or bad or good. Like that's not like
right.
But it's just like usually what the two dominant, like where the dominant lies. And so that's where, you're listening, because you're a good listener, obviously. Like I know you. You're a good listener, but your mind is always going to go to like, what can I do to like logically fix this person?
Yeah.
And I do the same thing. Like I'm very like that way too. And like, how can I fix this? Like, what do I need to do? But what I'm realizing more is that sometimes like listening just means like showing that you're there.
Just listening.
Listening. No, you don't have to figure out everyone's problem. It's like just be there.
Yeah. That's that's hard. It's hard for me for sure. That's a huge thing that I need to get better at, for sure.
Yeah.
But I love it. Like, look, see, if
we just uncover
it's identifying shit like this in I mean, wherever you dig, you're gonna find stuff like this, right? In your nutrition, in your fitness, in your relationship with others, in your relationship to yourself. I think the key is to constantly be auditing yourself, to be like, okay, what can I do better? Where is the deficiency that needs to be addressed here, right? So by default, that includes the fact that you need to become better. Period. Right. And a lot of the times, people just don't like that. Like like anything that threatens who you are in this moment in time is too harsh a message. So
it's honestly, it's complacency is killing us. Like we are too complacent and okay with mediocrity, and we just need to like not be, right? We need to constantly be doing better. And like I always kind of have to retell myself this, and I'm often saying it to patients, clients, everyone, is doing hard work is supposed to be hard. It's never easy, right? And we have to remind ourselves that like, it's no one said that nutrition and sticking to a meal plan is going to be an easy thing to do. And in reality, like I think like we build up how it's going to go one way in our head, and then it kind of goes like veers a different way.
Mm.
And we just have to be able to accept, like, okay, yeah, it's going to be hard. This is not supposed to be easy. No one ever said success was easy. And so like life is hard. It just is. Like we have to kind of accept that, and then like do things to make it better, even if it's
Yeah.
just a little bit, right? Like I think
Yeah.
that is the consistent like message or theme here, is like, if we're doing things consistently and just a little bit better, and we're putting our effort into it, we'll get what we put back into it.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what? Well, Katie and I took Max for a bike ride yesterday, and she's very competitive, right? So she's like, "How about we race to that post?"
Yeah.
And and Katie's like, "Don't let her win."
Yeah. Like,
And
you
I'm
should
like,
listen.
"Okay, great." Yeah. So at some point, Katie had to turn back and go home because of the puppies, but we I was like, all right, this time I'm gonna try. So I was, so anyways, I beat her. I get there first, and she stops on her little bike and she puts her feet down, and she's like, but we're on a bit of a hill, right? And she's like, that's not cool or whatever. And the bike starts sliding back. And instead of like running to her, mind you, I was like 12 feet 12, 15 feet away from her, right? And I'm like, well, she's gonna stop it. So instead of like running to her, I'm like, bye-bye, Max. And she's like, no. And then the bike kind of goes sideways and she falls. Oh man, she was so mad at me. And this was hard for me because, man, like, that child has my heart like wrapped around her finger.
Yeah.
It was so hard to not say, I am sorry, because I
Yeah.
was like, wait, I didn't do anything wrong. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't have caught you. It happened in an instant. Like, you should have caught yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and so to deliver that message to my 4-year-old little baby, like, it was so hard. But at the same time, I was
But
like,
amazing.
I got down on my knees and I'm looking at her, and she's crying. She's got tears coming down, man. And she's hurt that I didn't try to catch her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it happened. What are we going to do from here on? Like, right now, what are you going to do? She's like, well, my hand hurts. I'm like, I hear you. What are you going to do about it? And I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, man, at all, because I don't know. And I'll probably, there's things like this that I'll do that I'll regret later on. But I think back to the lessons that my parents taught me that have empowered me to deal with adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And those tough lessons are the ones that did it,
Yeah.
Fully knowing that they love you, but that they pushed you to deal with adversity, not avoid adversity.
And like you said, you're already teaching her to, like, control not the situation, but how she reacts to the situation.
Yeah.
Right. 'Cause that's important. And I don't think most of us learn that at a young age, especially at a young age, and especially nowadays with, children.
8th-place trophies and
Yeah. Yeah. And like, because I kind of grew up in like the, I think like as that generational thing was starting, like, you get like all these awards for like everything.
Yeah.
And but what does that teach us is that we don't have to try and we don't have to work hard, and then it makes it harder to get those, to learn as an adult. It's a lot harder for us to go back, because I do it constantly, right? Like, where I go back and I have to like almost like delete things that I think or know, because I'm trying to like, progress myself in my health, my life, my business, my everything. Is always trying to progress. But you have to like literally unlearn things, and it's hard to unlearn certain things for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. All
Cool.
right. So
Good.
hey,
Good.
I like this kind of format, like where we're just chatting, and hopefully this conversation brings a little bit of value to you guys out there. This has gone straight on to YouTube, but maybe we'll try to put it everywhere else. So maybe regardless of where you're listening to this, drop a comment and just tell us if there was something in this conversation that resonated with you, and And then if there's a subject that you'd like Dr. Alfredo and me to touch on, and
Yeah, maybe expand
that's fun.
on one of the things that we already touched on, because we had a lot of good topics today.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.